Welcome to the Season 2 WCS Korea Challenger League. I am Wolf, with me is Calder, and we are doing what is formerly known as Code A here at the GSL.
We have today the first day of the Challenger League after we've been casting a lot of the Team League just recently. We are back to the Individual League. It is the first round. We had the qualifier just recently, and it's going to be a very interesting season. Very exciting.
Absolutely so. We've got so many good players coming into this season. The qualifiers were crazy. We covered all of them. There are a lot of VODs on your YouTube channel, not only of some of the games, but also the hand speed of the players, so you can see just how quick these guys actually are.
And today is going to be really exciting. We are back in the newest Korean fashion, and we are going to find out who comes to the second round of the Challenger League, because of course we are in those danger days. If you lose in the first round of WCS CL, then you are out of the tournament. You have to re-qualify again next season, so you always want to reach at least the second round.
Yeah, and we have a lot of players, big fan favorites coming through today. Players like Beyond and Marine King, who've been around for so long, and they actually might fall out of the tournament entirely today if they lose.
Yeah, exactly. Our opening match today is going to be Ragnarok versus Pigbaby, aka HS, and that's going to be a very interesting Zerg versus Protoss. Ragnarok had a really good run in the last season, and Pigbaby, of course, he just qualified for the Challenger League in the last qualifier. It's going to be interesting to see if he can overcome that obstacle that is Ragnarok.
Yeah.
Great player that has also done quite a lot in the Team League.
Exactly. This is going to be really interesting to see. Can this newer Kespa player, new to this league, actually triumph over a player who's a lot more experienced, a former TSL Zerg, a really strong Zerg player, who, like you said, especially in the Team League, is doing very well.
Yeah, especially in our last few matches, he has done a great job, already took 2 wins for his team, and now, of course, we are going into our first game of the WCS Challenger League. We have a quick look at the players that we have this season. We have 14 Terran players, 14 Zerg players, and 20 Protoss players.
Yeah, a lot of Protosses this season.
Yeah. All of them trying to go straight to the Premier League, of course.
Yeah, there's some really famous names in this group, like players like Coca, Balloon, the newcomer. You've got Swagger in there as well.
Balloon was really excited at the qualifier when he was able to qualify for WCS, and of course we also have Jakji, the only player of NSHosta that made it into the individual league. So really excited to see those guys. Today we'll have a few other players, as mentioned already before. Ragnarok and Pigbaby is going to be our first match. Then we're going to Gumiho versus Terminator, also really exciting, Terran versus Protoss. Beyond versus Dia, our third match, and then last but not least, a Terran versus Zerg with Marine King against Marine.
Yeah, those are today's matches. Note that we have so many players like Avenge, Creator, Hero, Hurricane, JYP, Roro. Any of these players could actually fall completely out of this league. Effort as well as Sleep. Seed is in the Challenger League as well. So many players. Younghwa. I mean, this season is totally packed.
To be honest, for me personally, this season is a little bit about the newcomers. We have players like Coca that already had a great run in the past, but then went to League of Legends, came back to Starcraft 2, and are trying to make their way back into the Premier League. That's going to be exciting. I want to see how Balloon is able to perform this season. Bit of a new Protoss player that we have here for Team Startail. Jakji, always a player that you root for, especially as NSHosta is a huge fan favorite. They've been struggling in the GSTL, but maybe in the individual league, Jakji is the one to give them strength. And there are so many other players. JYP, for example, also being now in the first round of the Challenger League. It's going to be interesting to see if he can go straight to the Premier League.
Yeah, we've got so many players that I mentioned as the older players, the more well-known players, trying to survive here. Can they actually make it? Can they stick in this league? Or are they going to get knocked out by some of these newcomers you mentioned?
Yeah, and talking about those newcomers, Pigbaby, at least here in the WCS, still a newcomer. He's up against Ragnarok for LGIM, the strong Zerg player, already giving his team 2 points in the last GSTL match that they had to play. That was a really exciting match, but now we have those 2 youngsters up against each other here in the Challenger League. Who will fall back to the qualifier and who will have a shot at going straight to the Premier League?
I think somebody needs to talk to Pigbaby and say, I think the word you were looking for was piglet. Piglet is, I think, the word you were looking for.
Yeah, I don't know. Some of those Korean players are very fond of changing their nicknames, and HS changed his to Pigbaby, the Kespa 18 player. Here, of course, you can see that he came from the preliminaries, went into the Challenger League. On the other hand, we had Ragnarok dropping down. He comes straight from the OSL, the Premier League, and is now in the Challenger League.
Yeah, this is really pivotal match for both players because, for Pigbaby, this is his first time, and for Ragnarok, he had a good showing, but he doesn't want to let that kind of fall by the wayside here. It's really important for him to advance. Well, only one of these two players is sticking with it. The other one's going back to the qualifiers.
And also very important to note here is that this is of course a best of 3. We're going to play those matches today. The two players that we see right now on screen will actually they find themselves in a very interesting situation since the winner of this match in particular is going to face the winner of Gumiho and Terminator, which we are going to see later on today. So those two matches are from exactly the same bracket.
Yeah, very true. So everyone, all these 4 players are very connected in that way. And once you advance from this round, you will have your shot at the up and down. So you already have, if you win today, a possibility of going up to the Premier League.
Yeah, exactly. So even if you lose in the second round or in the third round, you can always go down to the up and downs and rely on those. Fight your way through those really intense groups and then still go to the Premier League. Then this is what it all comes down to. These players have been training for a long time. They then went to the qualifiers and they were able to get straight into the Challenger League. But now everything comes down to this one match. If they lose this best of 3 today, it's back to practice, back to the team house, back to preparing for the qualifier.
Exactly. It's never where you want to be. Map number 1 is Belshir Vestige. All the maps are predetermined in this league.
It's a great match for Zerg versus Protoss. I really like it. We've seen a lot of very interesting performances, especially Protoss players with very technical builds. What we are going to see on Belshir Vestige is an older map that we have in the map pool, been around for a long time. Ever since Wings of Liberty, we've seen maps on this, or games on this map, and especially Zerg versus Protoss developed a lot. Going straight into the games, guys, we have our first match today. Belshir Vestige is the map between Pigbaby and Ragnarok, yet the WCS Challenger League with Colin Wolf.
You gotta get into it when it's kicking your ass so you can get it back. You gotta get into it.
Starting to the bottom right of the map, we have the LGIM Zerg player. This is
LGIM Ragnarok.
really strong player, former TSL Zerg player, then went to LGIM and is performing quite well for them too. He's up against the Protoss today. Starting to the top left of Belshir Vestige, we have his opponent. Starting for Casper's 8th team, it is
8th team Pigbaby.
Very apt. This is the Challenger League because he is a completely new challenger here. And Ragnarok, you know, his potential was definitely fully realized when he joined LGIM. Before that, he was still a decent player. You know, Coach Leaf, TSL, said very good things about him, spoke highly of him, said he's got so much potential, he just hasn't really been able to realize that yet. And when he joined LGIM, it really just showed. He exploded as a player.
Yeah, TSL was really a great team, and they bred a lot of champions. If you just think back to what we saw just recently at MLG, the finals, Pold versus Hyun, that was also a TSL final, so to say. And well, let's look a little bit at the match that we see right now. Currently on screen, we already have the openings, very standard, especially in a map like this. As a Zerg, ever since SOS started his crazy cannon rushes at the natural, you're very reluctant to go into a hatch first. We usually see the pool opening, and especially, of course, against the Forge first for Pigbaby, it makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, so Forge first here, not really going to be able to do any damage. He will actually allow the hatchery to go down too. He doesn't block the hatchery at the natural.
You still have to be careful. We've seen a lot of cannon rushes that succeeded even when the Zerg player went for a pool first. So scouting is pivotal in this matchup. You need to find out what's going on. And it's always the chance that the Protoss player just goes ahead and drops the top pylon behind your mineral line. So you always have to be a little bit careful. Should either send out an overload, which is not the case in this scenario, but he might send out a drone at some point just to be super safe. So far, he doesn't really have to because he saw the probe the entire.
Yeah, he also kind of sent his drone behind the minerals for just a second when he moved his first drone down to make the hatchery, just to be safe, at least in that sense. And, you know, it was just a little bit strange to me. Pigbaby didn't really try to block the hatchery at all, just physically with his probe. And back at home, he is getting his gateway up, teching normally here. And the probe is actually going to see this drone going to the third base location. And most likely, Ragnarok won't actually make it till the probe's chased away. Well, we'll see if he saw that.
Gets the third down, and that's, of course, what you want to do if your opponent opens up with a Forge first. You go for the standard timing for your hatch around 4 minutes. Sometimes you go down to 4:20. But let's talk a little bit about the matchup and the two players here. This is, of course, Heart of the Swarm, so we don't have a huge sample size of games that those two have been playing offline against each other's races. Against Protoss players, Ragnarok has already 2 wins. He won 2 best-of-3s, 3 maps in total. He won against Avenge and against Puzzle, so to say he didn't lose a single map just yet, has a 100% record here. And for HS, if you look at his match history, he won 3 maps and lost 2, so 60%. Doesn't have the best ratio here just yet, but we are still down to pretty small sample sizes when we just focus on the offline matches in Heart of the Swarm, which is of course all that counts here. So a little bit of an edge maybe to Ragnarok. He's also the more experienced player at the booths here at WCS. But Pigbaby is definitely a tough challenger to face, and you have to be quite careful. As we said earlier, the first round is the most dangerous one.
Very true. You said Ragnarok was 2-0 in matches in this matchup, is that what you said?
Yeah, he won 3 against 2 opponents, and in total he won 3 maps, so he's 3-0 overall in maps.
Just clarifying that, because I was going to say, you know, he may have the perfect record, but Pigbaby's won just as many games. Again, in this matchup, he's played more, I guess, overall. The robotics goes down here for Pigbaby, who is going to be going for possibly some aggression.
You know, when you talk about it like this, actually when you look at the stats for Pigbaby for HS, he lost his first best-of-3 that he ever played against Zerg in Heart of the Swarm with an 0-2. Since then, he's on a 3-0 score, so that's the same score that Ragnarok has in this matchup. So you can actually argue that they are very much on the same level these days if you ignore the first opening match that he had in Heart of the Swarm. Well, you can, of course, still fall to a build order that you've never seen, since there are so many new strategies that come in. Right now, there's still a lot of wiggle room and a lot of changes. Blizzard just announced that they're going to release a new patch. But it's a lot more like standardized what you have in builds, and a lot more known, a lot more developed.
Yeah. We have an Immortal push coming out, by the way. He does not go for an Observer. He makes the Immortal first. And the Overlord, trying to scout here, does not actually see anything, does not see the robotics at all.
Yeah, Pigbaby goes a little bit old school here. And we have the Roach Warrior now done, and we have a lot of Overlords coming in, whereas the Lair Tech has been started. So, position is going to be everything here for Pigbaby, and this is not the biggest map, but there's still a fair distance between the 2 bases, so you will lose a lot of time. And the question, of course, being, when will Ragnarok identify what's going on?
Yeah, and also, is he going to have the larva, you know, when he's drone? Because that's a big problem as well. So it's you know, it's knowing as fast as possible, and also when you find out, making sure you can get those units out.
Really interesting positions here for the gateways. We have 6 gateways in total coming up now, just underlining once again that he wants to push on 2 bases with those Immortals, whereas Ragnarok doesn't know what's happening because his Overlords didn't scout anything. So we have now Spore Crawlers for him, just to be on the safe side.
Yeah.
But I was talking a little bit about those gateways that we saw at the pylon in the main base. He killed an Overlord there, and the chances that a Zerg player will actually have 2 Overlords in the same position are kind of 0. Yeah. So that's why he built those gateways all the way to the left, or split them out as he did. But now with the Zergling Scout suddenly, he knows exactly what's going on, and he looks at this and is like, oh my god, I have to prepare. Throws down the Hydra then even before it, and if he gets enough Hydras out, that would put him in a great position against his army.
Absolutely, you know, force fields can work decently against Hydras, but the range is so good that, you know, they can kind of ignore the force fields to a certain extent. He already has a lot of links on the map. Speed is about to finish. He's going to use these links to buy as much time as he can. A few Hydras on the way, but he also has to make some roaches. But oh no, his links didn't have speed yet. He's trapped so many of those.
Hey, trapped the Zergling. Speed is about to kick in, but we also have the first Hydralisks being produced. And I have to say that this is just a build that we've seen in Rings of Liberty over and over again, but we are in Heart of the Swarm. Does that still work? The Hydra Gen is so exposed. Did you see that at the third base? I didn't even realize this before. That is a problem.
A very big problem indeed. The Warp Prism being activated here. He's warping in more Stalkers. Does he have enough time? It doesn't look like it. The Spine Crawler here not going to last too long against this much firepower.
He needs to get more Hydralisks. He's getting 7 additional ones. The +1 attack upgrade is on the way, but not done just yet. The Hydralisk moving in. So much DPS. The drones coming off the mineral line trying to help out here.
And it looks like the Zealots now going to try to go through, but the Sentries actually blocked them a little bit. The Force Fields, on the other hand, are so good here. It looks like he may be able to push through. There's so many Hydras on the way, but they're taking a little bit too long.
Yeah, the Hydralisks are doing as much damage as they can, but the Force Fields, as you already said, they are great. They're splitting the army here. And Pigbaby gets into a very good position. The Hydra Den is being eliminated. Not just yet, but now
yeah, now it's gone. And he lost the Warp Prism, it appears. But still, he's got that pylon. And no, actually, the Warp Prism would just move further back, so he can still warp in here very close.
And here comes once again Ragnarok trying to hold off against this army. He knows that he only has to defend and he'll be fine. But the Protoss has so many units on the map right now. A slight supply advantage goes to Ragnarok. But more and more weapons coming in here for Pigbaby. And he has so many force fields still left and he's using them. But this time with a little bit of a gap to let those units escape.
Exactly. And starting to let a little bit grow on the sentry count here. Or rather the force field count. He still has quite a few sentries, but they don't do the damage like the Immortals do. He lost an Immortal. And this push is starting to look a little bit weaker here. He needs to hit this right now. Good force of trapping the entire army this time.
There's still 2 Immortals, of course, in the back, and they are dishing out the main damage against the Roaches here, and that's all that currently Ragnarok can rely upon. He's getting more Roaches into the battle, trying to close the distance right now, immediately moving in since those force fields are long gone and taking out sentry after sentry.
Sentries falling your left and right. The Immortals, on the other hand, still remain alive. He has to retreat. He has to get his forces together. 7 more Roaches on the way. A few more Zerglings. Larva becoming a little bit of an issue here, and he will lose the hatchery, perhaps.
There's still no Mothership Core with this. He can't just simply teleport back. There's no possibility for him to use a recall. But that hatch is so low already. With a short focus, he can take it out.
Yeah, looks like it's going to fall here. And Ragnarok looking just a little bit less likely to hold here. He's lost so many Harvesters this time as well. Now he's behind in Harvesters, 44 to 43.
We have a massive bank here in minerals for Pigbaby. He can reinforce with Zealots anytime he wants, but of course he would like to get some range units out there, making his way now over to the 3rd base. There is no add attack for Ragnarok. He lost the Hydra already, and he doesn't have an infestation pit or anything like it. If you identify soon enough what your opponent is trying to do, you can even try to get Swarm Hosts out, but no way for Ragnarok to win this anymore.
GG. And that's just an old school build that didn't get scouted. Really nice position on the Cybernetics core, and also made sure very, very strongly so that the Overlords couldn't scout.
The biggest problem here was really Ragnarok building that Hydra Den to the left side of his 3rd base, and I have no idea why he did that.
Yeah.
Maybe he tried to hide it, but if there's an Observer or a Phoenix, it will also spot the 3rd base, so that was a massive mistake.
Yeah.
That cost him the game.
Exactly. You know, and if he has... If he has it in his main base, yeah, maybe a Phoenix will see it, but
even if a Phoenix, a hallucinated Phoenix, sees it, Pigbaby is not going to look at the map. It's like, oh, okay, now I have my 7 gateways and I can't move out, so he's going to stand there and be like, well, I kind of have to go through with it anyways.
I completely agree, and maybe he thought if he only sends 1 Phoenix to the main, and by the time it flies past the spores and the queen, it would be killed and he wouldn't see it, but I don't even know why hiding it is part of the plan here.
If he just built that at the natural or even in the main base, he would most likely have been able to hold this push.
Yeah, just probably a basic error there. Just he was looking at the 3rd base when he decided he wanted to make his den and just was trying to be quick about it.
It's really annoying though when you lose a match just because of such a slight thing, just because of your SimCity. But he really has to focus down now, because he's down a game already and up against the Protoss player, and now going into Newkirk. We're gonna find out if Ragnarok can turn things around and go for the 1-1, or if Pigbaby clenches out a 2-0 victory here at the WCS Challenger League. Hold on, one.
You gotta get in to win.